I'm Lisa Haisha. Welcome to the Legacy Interviews. Today on my couch, I have Ted McGinley. And it's very exciting to have him here because I kind of grew up with him. He didn't grow up with me, but I grew up with him.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, I loved his shows starting from Happy Days and, onward. You've done several sitcoms, and I know you've done some charity work, and you've done a lot with your life, and you have a beautiful family. You've been married forever. So let's explore who Ted McGinley is.
All right, get a pillow.
All right, I'm ready. So where did it all begin? When did you get this urge to become famous or become an actor?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I've ever had the. That's a good question. I don't know if I ever had the urge to become famous. As a kid, I grew up watching Elvis Presley movies and thought, wow, he's really cool. I mean, like all of his movies, not necessarily his singing per se, but I used to see they did Beach Blanket Bingo, and I grew up on the beach, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I would love that. And then he would go into a war movie or whatever, and I thought, okay, that looks like fun. How would somebody do that? I had no idea. And then growing up the beach, there was nobody who was in the business. John Wayne lived down the street a ways, but they were like untouchable. So I never thought it was a possibility. And I sort of backed into it. So the idea of being famous, I guess maybe I thought that was interesting. Fame was never the sort of thing, but being in film and having that kind of life looked really exciting. But that went away, and through college I thought I was going to be a land developer and develop commercial properties. That's sort of what I was planning to do out of college. And then I started doing commercials, and next thing you knew, I was in Gary Marshall's office, and I got Happy Days cold turkey.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you have a great look. And back then, you were the epitome of the California surfer guy.
Yeah, I was. I mean, that's what I was a lifeguard for years on the beach, and I grew up on the beach, and the beach was definitely my home and the thing that I knew best. And I think when I started on Happy Days, for example, Gary Marshall said, your hair's not light enough. Everybody has dark hair. I need some light hair, he used to always say. So I had to go get it blonded and frosted.
Okay.
And that was so humiliating because I'd go to this fancy salon.
So you weren't
in
a
Beverly
natural
Hills.
blonde.
I was, but it started, I was from the pool and
Right.
the ocean. And as I sort of got away, because I was a water polo player through college. And as I got away from that life, it just started to get darker and darker. And it was still light, but not as light. They needed it to film light. It has to be really light. So they made it really light. And that was pretty embarrassing. To go into a salon with a bunch of ladies there. And I had foil in my hair, and they would walk me to the front and the back and wash it. And I thought, oh, that was like, I would much rather have gone to the dentist and had my teeth pulled.
Oh, interesting. All we saw was this gorgeous new guy on TV.
Well, I had to get used to it. It was embarrassing to have the blonde, to have it like that. But anyway, I was never a guy growing up who had a very good grasp of what I looked like or that anything. It was just, I never really looked in a mirror. Your life just went on. And I never really looked at myself much. And I didn't, so things like that, like doing your hair. And the first time I did GQ magazine, I was in college, and I got selected to be one of the GQ models. And the guy started pulling my eyebrows, getting ready, and he put a little, I think he maybe put a little powder on me, and I thought, what are you doing? I'd never had that experience before. And he said, take off that gold chain. I had a bad gold chain. He said, you got to take that off. And I just thought, what? I just didn't get it. I had no sense of anything off the beach. I had never
So how did you end up in Gary Marshall's office?
I moved to New York. It's a long story, but I moved to New York, and there was a woman named Joyce Selznick who was a talent scout for ABC, and she was looking for people to put on their shows. And she was going through, I walked into a meeting with her. She called me in to meet, like we did today. And I walked in here, and she had photos of me all over the floor of her room. And she said, she said, love to have you read these sides. And I read them. And she said, okay, look, we're going to come back in 3 months. We're going to come to New York, and we want to put you on tape for ABC. So study, and we'll take care of, classes or whatever you want to do. And I thought she was, I'd been sort of raised to think that the Hollywood thing was, that it wasn't honest, it wasn't true, and that there was just those people. And so I thought she was just giving me a line of, because when I was a kid, there were some people trying to get me to do commercials and stuff. And my mom thought it turned out to be a little shaky, I think. So from that point forward, it was always, we're not interested. So she said it to me, and I said, no, I'm not really interested. I didn't do any studying. I thought she wasn't being honest. And then she called about a week before and said, we're coming in 4 days. And have you been studying? And well, yeah, sure. So I went out, took one class. I was terrible. I went in and auditioned, and they put me on tape, and ABC signed me. Because I think I had potential, not because I had any real talent at all.
You had potential and you had a look.
I had a look, and Gary Marshall, the genius of Gary Marshall is he takes people, he can see what your most honest spot is. Someone like Julia Roberts from Pretty Woman, and he develops and brings out this part of you that he sees, and he can sort of cast a type. And I got lucky enough that he did that with me, and was patient enough to allow me to sort of, they all were, to allow me sort of to develop. And so I was on the show with, some of the greatest actors around, and I was so intimidated. In fact, when I was in high school, I would run home from workouts so we could see the show on television. Now, one day I literally blinked my eyes and I was on the air with them. Frightening. Absolutely frightening. So I went from being kind of a very successful guy in college in water polo to being, and I started off as the dog in that world. I was the worst. Short, fat, slow, and I worked myself to the bone, and because I was so angry about what was happening to me, how I was perceived, and I didn't really had a good look at who I was and how other people saw me. And so when all of a sudden I went into Happy Days, I had that same experience again, where I became sort of this dog and who untrained. And so I learned, because I just am that kind of person. I just won't quit until I can look at myself. It's all about me. It's like I don't ever measure or dislike people because they're at a different stratosphere or whatever than myself. It's just how, once I have an awareness of a place that I consider, I don't say a place where I could live with myself, then I just grind until I get there.
What do you think is the difference between fate and free will in your life? It seems like things just happen for you. Yeah, you had to work hard, but you kind of fell into the situations that really took off.
I really believe in what you put out in life, you get back in life. And that since I've been a very small child, I've understood that. I've had this amazing understanding that I think is with God, that it takes decency and kindness and understanding and those sort of things. And that I feel like when no one's looking, I offer those. And I try. I'm a highly fallible person, but I'm conscious of trying to be the best person I can be, or offer the best of myself when I can to people. And I would say my weaknesses are when I'm not able to do that. But I'm aware that that's important. And I think that if you put kindness into the world and you put decency, it comes back to you. And that's that sort of karma flow that I call it, where if you put it out well, it will come back well. And it doesn't always come back. You can't put it out expecting it to come back. That's the thing. And I've learned that if you say, I'm going to do this because I want to have that, it doesn't work that way. It is a endless gift of decency and kindness and truth and all of those things that you put into the world that I believe come back. And so I have benefited from, I like to think anyway, from not from my own decency, but that I try and I'm aware of it.
So when you are in a situation where something or someone offers you an opportunity, you really seize the moment, you work hard, and you're grateful for it.
I'm always grateful.
Yeah, so where a lot of people, they're given a situation and sometimes they don't see it as that, or they don't honor what's in front of them, or they don't take advantage of it.
I think that a lot of people, I guess speaking for myself, I don't necessarily feel that I deserved the opportunities that I got early on. And so I had a lot of issues with that. I would
Because
go
you
into
could have
an
really
acting class.
self-sabotaged the Happy Days thing if you were feeling, oh, I'm not worthy, and these were your idols. And a lot of people have. A lot of people that I've talked to and actors have said, oh, I had this opportunity and I blew it, or I did this, or I did drugs, or I got scared.
Yeah, that's never been my thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not my thing. I get very disappointed with myself. I really am so, I don't want to self-involve, but I'm very honest with what I see when I look at myself. And disappointing myself is, brutal. And so I was...
Did your parents instill that in you?
I don't know really where it came from. I think that I lived... My parents were sort of entertainers, and they had a very social life. And I had two older sisters who were seemed like they were gone, or they were out with friends, and I had a lot of time by myself. And so I just developed a lot of these, I really don't know. I just, over time, I spend a lot of time by myself. I enjoy that. But I think that's just sort of how I'm made. I mean, part of my makeup, and that that is the hardest thing for me to overcome, is when I've disappointed myself, and because it's real, and that's, sometimes I'll disappoint my wife, for example, and her, which is very honest that I would disappoint her, but also hers and all of ours is sort of slanted by our own perception of what has occurred, right? So, but when it's you, it's just you. Mm-hmm. And so you are left alone when everyone's gone with what lives inside your...
Absolutely. And that's what counts.
Right.
And that's what helps create your future. When I say the phrase expect miracles, it's when you could look at yourself in the morning and like what you see.
Right.
And that's why charity work is so important, and volunteering, because you like yourself more when you see all these people and all these kids being benefited by your work.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. If someone can't make it in life or they're floundering, I always say, go volunteer. Because once you like yourself more, you'll work harder for yourself.
Yes.
Because you have more reason to do that.
And it's, again, you get too much into yourself when...
Yes.
And you see the battles that so many people are facing on a daily basis.
Every minute you have a choice.
So
which trail, which road do you want to go down? How did you experience fame when you said, okay, now I'm officially famous? When you go out and people recognize you, how did that affect you, and how did it affect your family and those around you?
Well, it was very awkward. I was very uncomfortable with, I was 22 years old.
Okay. Wow.
21, 22. I mean, I started doing commercials probably at 20, and then print work, and people were talking about, but I was sort of nobody was doing it at USC, where I came out of. There was nobody really per se doing that, and so I was sort of this, people who were jealous were taking shots at me, people who were fascinated were sort of like very curious. It was an interesting time period, and I didn't really know the answers. I was sort of along for the ride. I didn't know what I was getting into. And then when I started on Happy Days and people were asking for an autograph or a photograph, and I thought, it was very uncomfortable. I had a really difficult time. It was embarrassing. I was just embarrassed, because I am you. So I am the guy who 1 week ago wanted someone's autograph, but I was never the guy who would ask. I would never ask for an autograph, but I was that guy. So now a week later, I'm on a television show, and I'm still that guy. So it made it very uncomfortable for me, and I just couldn't get myself to. I kept saying, I would just want to get it over with and move on as quickly as possible. And no ill will towards the people. I just couldn't figure out. I was unworthy of that signing an autograph. And over time, and one of the people who really taught me a lot was Henry Winkler. I learned a ton about being gracious to people in large crowds, in large numbers, and I would watch him and see how he would do it. And he was the best I've ever seen. And so I learned a great deal from Henry on how to deal with people and who all want something. And it's not that they really want something. It's because you are on TV and you are able to offer something. And it's really not from you, other than your time and your energy. And so I learned, and that was a huge help for me because I was just so uncomfortable.
What advice would you give people today who want to get into the business?
That's a good question, because today, I believe today it's easier than it has ever been to get into the business, because you can make your own movies, your own documentaries, your own music, whatever the art form is, you can do it on your own. You couldn't do it before. There was no, in the old days when we were doing Happy Days, those were multi-camera shows with film running through the camera. So the operator was the only one who could see what he was shooting. And when they ended the take, the director would say, "Did you get that? Did you see it? Did you get it all?" And he'd have to say yes or no. Today, on the video you're seeing, or on the cards, you can see the director's watching what he's shooting the whole time. So he knows, like right now, you can tell whether or not I'm in frame, did we get it, am I in focus, all that stuff. In the old days, it was all relying upon the guy behind the camera. And I saw, guys get fired for being wrong about what they saw. So anyway, today it's just so much easier. Anybody can do it.
And develop their craft by practicing in front of a camera and shooting and seeing what angles, and develop their acting ability.
And from there, perhaps build an audience.
Yes, and submit it to somebody and get noticed and become a YouTube sensation.
So
Absolutely.
for sure, it happens, it can happen, it'll happen more and more. I love the idea that this is true creativity.
Yes.
I like it because the studio system is ruined, in my opinion, the creative, because they need bigger explosions and they need so-and-so in the movie, and it's these independent films that will come out and change the world, as they always have. And I always have, what I mean by that is the directors who had true artistic passions and visions, that nobody was in the way of their work. Nobody was saying no. And so I think it's fascinating now that you have real artisans ready to explode with all this technology at home with 3 guys. It's just this is a really cool period, I think. And you're seeing that now on television, where you see these brilliant TV shows being done because the producer, writer, director has full autonomy. He can do whatever he wants and create and build, and nobody's saying no. That's an exciting time for television.
Well, where are you going next?
From here, I'm going to go to Starbucks.
Okay, get me a coffee. I think I'm doing the same thing. I'll meet you there.
Okay,
We'll continue.
I have a film that's coming out soon. I have 2 films coming out soon, which is good for me because I haven't had anything like that in a while. I've had movies that I've been doing. They're small independents that come out on DVD, etc. But this is going to be these will both be in the cinema, so that'll be cool. And then was supposed to be right now in Alabama, in Mobile, Alabama, working on a World War II submarine movie that we got pushed back to May or June. So for sure, I shouldn't say for sure, because the first thing you learn here is that nothing is for sure. But that's what I'm planning on. We're working on the script and doing all the sort of fun stuff.
So you're more in film now instead of TV.
Well, in my perfect world, I would love to be in. I love film. I love the process of film, or one camera TV. I could live with. I like that. I like that process. But, one of the things that I hate about what I do is I never know what tomorrow is. I have a family, I have 2 kids, I have an amazing wife, and I don't have a sense
How did you meet your
of what
wife?
tomorrow is. Doing a play at the Burt Reynolds Theater in
Oh.
Jupiter, Florida. I had worked on a movie with Burt Reynolds, and he said, "Yeah, I have this theater down in Jupiter, Florida." He said, "Love to have you come down sometime." I thought, again, my first reaction is people just talk.
Sure.
Within 2 weeks, I got a phone call from Burt and said, "Look, I'm directing a play. Would you come in?" Ozzie Davis, Joel Silver, these 2 huge Broadway veterans, and I was, yeah, I'll do.
I think I can make
anything.
it. Yeah.
So I walked down there. Burt himself picked me up at the airport, and I thought, wow, this is and I just couldn't believe it. And on the ride back from Miami, or maybe I was I think it was in Miami. I'm driving back to the theater, and he said, "This is an amazing place. It's a magical place. Things happen here, good, bad. It's a mystical spot." And we were driving to the theater, and he said, "Now the apprentices are going to put on a show tonight, and let's go in." And he had in the back of his theater, he had this room, a private dining room, so you could sit in there. So it's myself, Lonnie, and Burt. And we're sitting in the room, and he said, "Now, this next girl is going to come out." He said, "She's a triple threat. She can sing, she can dance, and she can act her ass off." And all of a sudden, I see these legs go bam, bam, outside of the curtain. And that was it. It was like a 2x4. She was very attractive and super talented, and talent is sexy, for sure.
It is.
And attractive. But we had a 2.5-week rehearsal period on like in an industrial building where they have the taped off floor that is the exact measurements of the stage, because you can't get on the stage. So we were rehearsing in this area, and my experience had been also coming from television, and I would go into the theater, and the people had spent their entire lives in the theater, and now I'm sort of this young schmuck coming in. It wasn't always the warmest greeting. They weren't as happy to have me there as I would have enjoyed. But you had to really earn your respect in the theater, and that was kind of attractive. But the first play I had done, I learned to separate myself and allow them to don't come on hard, allow them to slowly come to me and find me, and so that's sort of the same thing I was doing there. But I didn't speak to my wife for over 2 weeks. We made entrances opposite each other, and so we were always opposite each other. And I was always looking at her and staring at her, and she would catch me, and because I was so taken by just her presence, and I knew nothing about her, but I just couldn't stop, looking at her, and I would catch her looking at me. And I had been in a relationship with an actress, and who to this day I still love, but I just didn't want to be in I didn't want to be in a relationship with an actress, because I thought 2 actors in a relationship is probably just too much. And so I just said, I'm not going to do this. As compelling as she was pulling me towards her without her knowing it. And finally, opening night, she sent me a card and said, "Would you meet me for a glass of champagne afterwards?" And that was that was it. We never were apart after that. I mean, it was...
But she was an actress too.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did she quit and have kids, or is she still working?
She's still working. She's still an actress.
Okay.
She just opened a great art gallery called the Alice Rice Gallery down in Laguna, in North Laguna. So that's extremely exciting, because she's also a beautiful painter, which she's just discovered like in the last 4.5 years. And she does classic, beautiful paintings. And it's been such a gift, because when you're not working as an actor or an actress, it's so difficult to have somebody else control whether or not you get to work. And neither of us were clever enough early on to figure out that we should be in charge, and we should be the ones who are helping us decide when we're going to work or not. And so now that's how you get bitter quick, is by being angry that somebody else somebody who doesn't even know your name or doesn't know anything you've done up to this point. So the easiest way is to have some great creative outlet or some outlet. And she's discovered this painting, which has been...
That's wonderful. And you made it work with an actress.
Yeah,
so if there's a
well,
will, there's a
because
way.
she's magical. I mean, I think there's nothing. It's not an actress per se. It's more probably me being an actor than her being an actress. I mean, I think that maybe I'm the difficult one, but it's just hard. People who are so, it's hard. I just, and then I think maybe it was, I have no idea. Me at the time, I never wanted to be married. I always thought that I wanted to have a child and be a single dad and live that life where,
You wanted to be a single dad.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to have that relationship and be as deep and as profound as I could possibly, as I could possibly be into a child's life and really be there, And what I learned was that when I got married and we had kids, that it was two opinions now. That's always the hard part. But it's also sort of the magic, because who knows how I would have tainted any poor child.
But it seems like you made the right decision in choosing a spouse, so it
For
worked
sure.
out.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're 22 years married now. And,
Congratulations.
going on 23, and in Hollywood, that's saying something.
That sure is.
So,
what's the best piece of advice you ever received?
ooh, I would say what goes around comes around. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Who gave you that advice? Or did you read it someplace?
Yeah, I probably got it in church as a kid. And
you've lived your life by that?
My mom has, I think I remember having those conversations with her about that kind of thing. And then I proved it. People say, well, how can you have faith? And I said, I'm 100% certain. Like, how can you not have faith? So I just think that, I guess that's it. The other one is for me, when I'm in a situation like this today, is just tell the truth. I'm not a very comfortable person. Like I don't enjoy, as I mentioned to you beforehand, I don't like talking about myself. I don't like, I just feel like, we're all very fragile people, and that we have these little cocoons that we develop. And when the trickiest part of life is to allow the cocoon to be cracked in places so that you can get out and see and be affected by what the world is, but not in such a way that it hurts you to the core that you can't repair. And
that makes sense.
So, I mean, that is this constant with all of us, I think. And that by doing something like this, I give away parts that I don't necessarily want to give away, or that people that can't respect where I come from or how I feel, I open myself up to that sort of thing. And I'm not in that position of just saying, I don't care. It's not that I would listen per se to somebody being aggressively against me, and it's not that would affect me in a way. It's just that I don't feel it's necessarily important for anyone to hear what I think.
But what about people who really respect you and admire you and want to emulate who you are and how you became who you are, to take the right path?
I have not found those people.
Yes.
I don't think they exist.
There's a lot out there.
I don't believe they exist.
I don't think you'd be recognized on the street today, are you?
Sure I am. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. But I wear a hat everywhere I go.
Do you really try to protect your privacy when you're out with your family?
No, early on, my kids have all learned to deal with it. They always ask me to put a hat on, but we've all learned how to do it. It was tricky because when I was on Married with Children, for example,
What a great show that was, right?
Fun. One of the greatest gigs of all time.
Was it as crazy on the set as it appeared watching it?
Crazier.
Yeah.
It was really a fun, amazing group of people. Loved them. Loved my time there. And that was when, you went out, you were always being recognized.
Yes.
So everybody had to learn. And I personally feel like if I'm at dinner, I just sign it and have that over with, then I can enjoy my dinner saying, look, when I'm done, I'll come over, and I can't do that. Just let's do this. Thank you. I am eating. It's not very polite, but thank you. Bye. We didn't, sometimes that was tricky when you had kids, and that they want all your time. They deserve all your time in those moments when you're sitting down. So that's always
your personal life, yes.
The hard part. And people feel that you're a public person or persona, so you owe it to the public to be open at any time that they feel like it. I don't feel that way. But I would be very gracious because it's just how I am.
How do you...
So I don't go out.
Right. You stay indoors most of the time at home. How do you navigate your spiritual life and your work life and that work-life balance? And especially to stay married that long.
I feel like that's just always work. That's just always making sure that I'm honestly taking her temperature of as best I can of am I being the person that she needs me to be, and the person that that she dreams of being with. I mean, that's what I want to be. I mean, that's the kind of husband I want to be and aspire to be, is that she enjoys being with me and I'm not a burden, and that I can somehow make her better because I'm there to support and love and nurture and all of those things. That's who I want to be. Same with my kids. And I would say the difficult times with my wife and I would be when I've come up from a system which is tough, and that my coach in high school was a madman, a brutal, very difficult person, but brilliant. And I respected him immensely, and all I wanted was his respect. And he didn't give it. He didn't give it easily, and it took me years to get it. And so, but I also learned through that time period that it is hard work and dedication and sacrifice, that if you really want to achieve, that's what it takes. There is no other way.
Yeah, because it seems like your life is just rolled out. You want to be an actor, you're an actor. Now you get a job after job after job. You get married, and okay, it's a perfect marriage. Now the kids, great kids. So you do work hard at it every day. Do you wake up at a certain time? Do you have family meetings once a week to regroup? Do you make sure family dinners every night, or is it just...
No, because my kids were very athletic, so we're always in some sort of club sport when they were growing up, which prohibits the family ever getting together. It's really brutal. I'm not a big fan of that whole thing. I think we're being sold a bill of goods that is just untrue.
I agree with that.
And one of my sons had a volleyball tournament in Atlanta during the 4th of July weekend. I thought, this is so stupid.
Yeah, my sister's daughter, so my niece had a soccer tournament the December 23rd. And right before Thanksgiving, it's like, really? She's got to go out of town and...
Yeah, November. Yeah. We've had the tournaments. We've done all of that. And now they're older, so we've been through that forever. But what I coached both my kids in baseball all the way through, and coached in a lot of their different sports. And the one thing that I learned was that there are moments, like my coach beat those moments into us. There was no soft sell of anything. But I learned that with my kids, because my wife wouldn't go for it. She does not like me to be hard on my kids. She's not, it makes her very uncomfortable. And that's sort of where we would fall in different places. And so what I've learned is how to do, sort of say what I have to say differently. And I find moments, just like in life, there are moments, and you just have to be open to those moments and know when they come. And when they come, that's your chance. You get those rare chances to say something that your child will really hear. And that's sort of how I do. Yesterday, my son was in a golf tournament this weekend out in the desert, and he didn't play very well. And so on the way home, I'm trying to find when we can kind of talk about it. He's not feeling well about it, and I'm just waiting for a lull or a moment or an opening. And if it doesn't come, then I will find another time. But I'll never forget that there's a moment there. There's something to hear. And for me, if he wants to talk, to just listen and hear what he's really saying. So those are magic. That's like the magic of being a parent. Like, people bitch and moan about having that. We got up at 5 or 5:30 and we drive 2.5 hours, whatever it is, and we come back. But for me, that's magic. Those are the moments in life that count.
It is.
When I die and I'm on my deathbed, it'll be that car ride that I'll remember, right? It'll never be what movie I did, or those things aren't important to me.
What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy is already my kids.
Your kids.
And I would love to, look, I'm all about peace of mind. I believe peace of mind is the greatest gift that you can have.
How do you attain peace of mind?
It's this never-ending balance of being open to, I sound like a whack job, but being open to truth and how you deal with the world.
But how do you find your truth for people who don't know how to do that because they've blocked it so strongly that they're so in denial about who they are?
Yes.
How do you help someone like that crack open their soul?
You're the expert. I have no idea.
How do you do it?
For me, I know that when I'm being overly, maybe if I'm coming down too far on one side, overly defensive, or the truth is, I just feel it. Like, I know, and I'm willing to be uncomfortable. Like, we're all looking for, and especially this next generation, which is all immediate gratification, the games and all that stuff has to happen right away. That with that generation, I think it's going to be tricky, but you have to be willing to live in uncomfortableness to get to the good, and that you have to pay the price. It's all about paying the price. When I make a decision in life, I always ask myself, I always play a worst case scenario, and people always say, why are you such a fatalist? Because I take the worst case that I think could possibly occur. And then I say, if that were to happen, is this still a good idea? What would I do? How would I react? What do I need to do? And if I can live with that, I make the decision one way or the other. I do what I think has to be done. So I think, though, I have to accept that I might have to pay the price. In other words, everything you get costs you something. So everything in life has a price, in my opinion, and that we all pay. So are you willing to pay? Is it fair? Not fair in the scheme of life, but is it a fair cost? Is it something is it a burden?
That is brilliant, because that is so true. Something you do, and just that moment of carelessness could alter your whole life. And that's the thing you could focus on. One of the biggest things I get with clients coming in here to see me is shame and guilt for something they did, even if they were never caught.
Right.
They're like, but I did this.
It's almost
and
worse
haunting
not
them.
being caught, probably.
Yes, and it haunts them, and it has affected them, and they've sabotaged their life because of it.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. I was just having a conversation with someone the other day about how we are all, you have to allow yourself, we're all so fallible. And people appear to be, my life appears to be that I have these great kids and I have a wonderful wife, but I struggle with trying to have a career that has some value, or that I can be proud of, or that people would look at me as a person of some regard, and it doesn't. It just may not happen in that. So that's why going home is so important. And going home by even looking in the mirror and developing a relationship with that person that is honest and true, and you're able to say, I need to work on this. I'm weak here. We all want to go away from our weaknesses instead of working on our weaknesses. And that's the same thing. That's why sport is so important for kids, because there's so many life lessons that I got out of that, and that I've tried to help kids through along the way. But also, they never go away. You work on your weaknesses, and if you don't, you'll always have those weaknesses. I'm dyslexic. I don't even talk about it because I didn't realize it until way late, and I never wanted to give my children an excuse for anything in the classroom, because we would find someone that will help, whatever it is, but you're not going to do it because I had that issue, so I don't even talk about it. But every time I go into a table read, there is nobody in that room who has higher anxiety than I do. And people say, well, you've been doing this for like 35 years. I said, and I'm the one who, I can't wait for that to be over. I can't follow, like I have a tracking issue. So it's torture, and I just want it to be done, and are you going to fire me or not? And it's like, how can you still have this issue in 35 years? The fact that I haven't gone out, sought someone to help me get through this is embarrassing, but that's where I am. For example, say I'm playing an attorney. Now, you don't get sides. You don't get an audition 3-4 days in advance. You get it the night before or whatever. And sometimes they're extensive. Sometimes there's 15 pages.
And sometimes when you walk in, they go, oh, we switched it out. Here's yours. Yeah. Like, no.
Right. That does not work. Right. And then I just say, I'm not going to, I just can't do it. But then I have to wear glasses because I'm going blind. And when you wear glasses, it changes the character, especially a lot of the characters that I'm going in for. So I don't, I have to figure out, all those are sort of ongoing truths that I have to deal with and that I have to take care of. But those are always, it's just a constant changing evolution of my career and life, and that you just have to be honest with.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you.
This was wonderful. The time went by so fast.
Yeah,
I got the 5-minute mark about 15 minutes ago. I'm like, no, I'm not done yet.
Oh, that was great.
Okay,
I do appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
nice.
Thank you so much.
I apologize.